drawn a difficult matchup here. A lot of the value cards that a Sultai Citadel deck plays, these Explorer creatures, tend to be good against control. His opponent, Evan Whitehouse of Lotus Box, is another Simic Nexus player today. A deck that's going to hope to ignore things like Wild Growth Walker and Jade Light Ranger.
Right, and one of the things about this Bolas' Citadel deck is that it does have this combo kill that literally just kills, rather than the Command the Dreadhorde deck, which tries to accrue a pretty large advantage in terms of raw cards. This actually has the ability to kill someone by just activating Bolas' Citadel and doming Whitehouse for 10 here.
As a way to get around root snares.
Exactly.
Well. So we start out at Whitehouse on Temple of Mystery.
A couple of new cards in the Bolas' Citadel deck here are Yarok the Desecrated, which is basically a Panharmonicon, meaning that all of your Enter the Battlefield triggers are going to happen more than once, and then also you have Scheming Symmetry, which lets both players search their deck for any card and put it on top of their deck, which with Bolas' Citadel...
Yeah, that's really interesting, especially with Bolas' Citadel. It is a symmetric effect, and against a deck like Simic Nexus, they will get some mileage out of getting the top card of their deck if they get to draw it.
Right. The idea is if you just don't give them a chance to draw that card, all you're actually doing is stacking your deck with no drawback.
Risen Reef from Slater. 4 copies of Risen Reef in the deck as well. I don't believe there's... Outside of the 2 Yarok, there are not other elementals to go with it. It's just really showing the power of the card.
Wild Growth Walker is an elemental. That's what we call synergy.
To Slater we go.
On
5, it is that elemental in Yarok the Desecrated.
As a matter of fact, I would love to look at the top card of my library, and if it's a land, put it into play tapped. And you know what? I liked it so much, I will once again do it.
Yeah, because this is an enter the battlefield, not a cast, you actually get both of them. So 2 triggers there, 1 got a land, 1 got a card. And to swing in Evan Enstep Chemister's Insight.
And Slater's all set up to go. One of the things about Bolas' Citadel that you can usually do to try and offset the combos, if you just pressure their life total and they don't have a Wild Growth Walker, they don't actually get to cast that many spells, right? But with someone at 20 in a pseudo Yawgmoth's bargain, they're going to go for a while if Slater can just find this copy.
Right. So the idea, I'm wondering the combo we're talking about. Bolas' Citadel lets you play the top card of your deck using life points to cast them. Once you get a Wild Growth Walker in play, you gain life as you cast the spells. So you start breaking even and just playing the top card of your library repeatedly.
Right, and if you hit the second Wild Growth Walker, you even get paid for casting your spells.
So once you're at that point in the deck, it's really just lands that can stop the turn?
Exactly. You have to hit a big chunk of consecutive lands to not just cast most of your library at that point.
Evan on the untap, he Growth Spirals into land 6, casts Tameo, names Wilderness Reclamation, but is not able to find one.
Bright side, he'll likely get to untap with this Tameo as long as he gets to untap.
Yeah, this does really feel like a combo race here, especially with Evan naming something like Wilderness Reclamation. It really suggests he already has Nexus of Fate in his hand and is just looking for extra mana for the following turn.
Right. In a lot of ways, this Citadel deck doesn't have that many ways to actually pressure the opponent's life total very well, even if it is a creature-based combo deck.
All right, so the question you mentioned was, will he get another turn? So here is the namesake card of the deck, Bolas' Citadel. He can look at the top card of his library anytime and may play it. If it's a spell, you can pay life for it. So the first card on top was Overgrown Tomb. Attacks down Tameo. Will he keep going? If it's another land, he's actually done for the turn.
Yeah, it looks like it was likely just 2 lands in a row, and this is kind of the drawback with something like Bolas' Citadel. You're just literally at the mercy of the top of your library.
Now, if Slater gets another turn, do you feel like that's going to be the end of the game?
On one hand, I want to say yes. On the other hand, after seeing what just happened, it's hard to say.
Right. So we see Nexus of Fate from Evan. Because he did not find Wilderness Reclamation, this is a pretty fair Nexus of Fate, just tapping 7 mana.
Right, and he does have this Tamio in order to try and find more copies of it in the meantime. And this is what's so strong about something like Tamio going with Nexus of Fate is you just get so many looks at more copies.
+1 for Tamio, and he named Nexus of Fate and gets it. So, set up for the following turn as well.
Here we're likely going to see Tamio name Wilderness Reclamation again, just trying to hit.
Nexus of Fate again for Evan.
And this means he's probably just going to actually name Nexus with the Tamio and try to mill a copy of Wilderness Reclamation in the graveyard to rebuy that way. Evan knows that he just needs to, if he gives Slater another turn, that's way too risky and he'll probably just die.
Even if he mills over another Tamio, that can help in this spot.
Right.
Plus from Tamio. Did he name Wilderness Reclamation? He named Nexus of Fate. So there was a Wilderness there, but he does not get to keep it. And back to Evan we go. No more turns in the bank.
If he has a bunch of draw spells in his hand, he does have the ability to minus this Tamio and rebuy Wilderness Reclamation.
Right. For that to work, you'd want him to have... Draw spells would be okay, or does he have to have another Nexus?
Well, you need the Nexus of Fate in order to keep going. So you can't, if you don't have draw spells, then getting Wilderness Reclamation doesn't actually do anything particularly productive, right? You jump from 8 mana to 16 or something, but 16 mana doesn't actually win you the game if you don't have anything to do with it.
For Evan, those really are the finishers in the deck. Nothing like Mass Manipulation or any other large spell. It's the one Callous Dismissal, which seems to be the win condition of choice. Evan has actually put a second win condition in with Nissa, who shakes the world, as a one-of.
And the draw to something like Nissa is it also can even do a little bit of a Wilderness Reclamation impersonation just because it doubles all the mana from your forests as well.
So, back to Evan's turn we go. 4 mana is tapped. Did he draw a Wilderness Reclamation? He did not. He main phases a Chemister's Insight.
And this is just informing the decision on what this Tamio needs to do.
Yeah, the -3 from Tamio. Will get a Wilderness Reclamation. Evan uses the remainder of his mana to cast it. End step untaps. Does he have another Nexus in his hand? That's what he would need to keep the party going. I don't think he does.
No, this doesn't look like it.
And Slater's going to get a turn.
This is scary.
Right. And this is almost certainly Slater's last turn.
Yeah, and you see Slater kind of let out a breath and go, oh, I did not expect to get here.
And blink of an eye on the upkeep on Bolas's Citadel.
Make your way to your seats again. Players in the 3 p.m.
It looks like it might be in the draw step. I think he already drew for turn.
Okay.
At the gathering point.
Regardless, it's back in his hand, and if Slater wants to do anything, he's going to have to tap all of his lands to just recast this Citadel.
Challenge accepted. Slater taps 6. Here's Bolas's Citadel. Evan only plays 1 blink of an eye, so we're not going to see that happen again. Top card's Jade Light Ranger, and here we go. Slater down to 18. We will get 4 Explore triggers.
It's a lot of Explorers. And he also gets a Risen... No, he does not get a Risen Reef trigger, excuse me.
No, Jade Light Ranger not an elemental. He likes the top card he sees, so puts the 4/1/1 counters on Jade Light. It's another Jade Light Ranger on top. Has to show it.
Yeah, that's just paying 3 life for extra looks, basically.
And what's the card he's looking for? Wild Growth Walker?
Wild Growth Walker is a great start here. It looks like he has one in his hand as well. So this is just really going to let him go off.
Yeah, now we do see the land. Is it Wild Growth Walker?
Oh my gosh,
time?
this is so awkward. So he has to cast Jade Light Ranger before casting Wild Growth Walker, or else Risen Reef will force him to put the card in his hand.
Oh, you're right, because it's an elemental.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Slater down to 15. Here's another Jade Light Ranger. And yeah, he wants that Risen Reef on top.
Yeah, it's a weird spot where it's not even that great, but you don't necessarily want it in your hand either.
Yeah. All right, so Slater down to 12 for another Risen Reef. This is 2 Reef triggers. So cards go in hand, lands
4
go
Reef
else.
triggers.
Oh, you're right,
because there's
Yarak.
a Yarak.
1, 2, 3, 4. Now he can put any card in his hand. Lands have the option of entering tapped. Actually, with how this, because this is his last turn of the game, do Risen Reef triggers matter? Right, because he's not going to untap to cast these cards. Lands entering tapped don't matter.
Yeah, him tapping all of his black sources means he can't do something like Scheming Symmetry from here.
It's actually interesting. Yeah, there's a ton of card advantage. I don't know that he'll be able to do anything with it. Here's Wild Growth Walker, and that's going to be 4 more triggers off Risen Reef. But again, he can't decline these. If he sees an Explorer creature on the top, he's going to be at the mercy of his deck in just a second here. And now we get to see the top card. What is it?
Yeah, now he's in a spot now that he's out of mana. If he just ends up with a land here, he kind of has to just say go.
But he can't say go. That's the game, right?
Well,
if he can help it. Hostage Taker. Down to 8. A lot of enter the battlefield triggers, but nothing really to do with them.
He does have to target something twice with this Hostage Taker. He's likely just going to eat a Jade Light Ranger and keep going about his business.
And that's what his opponent points out. You can't decline it. Down to 8 he goes. And I think life points are going to be taken care of because he's found a Merfolk Branch Walker. So he goes to 6 to cast it. He's going to get to explore twice and then gain life.
Go to 12 and likely just keep going.
So Assassin's Trophy's on top. These are... Well, I suppose that could blow up a Wilderness Reclamation. Is that good enough? I don't know.
Yeah, at this point, he might just be under the impression that this is effectively free.
Sure, it goes down to 10.
And if you can blow up, say, Tomio and Wilderness Reclamation, then it's not unlikely that you just get another turn from here.
So what is the way... Because Bolas' Citadel only deals 10 damage when you tap it. So to win, he has to find a second Bolas' Citadel and dome for 10 again.
Or... and here's something that Evan is very familiar with. Slater has his own Nexus of Fate.
Yeah, he has 1 copy of Nexus of Fate in his own deck. Can start looping that. He'd have to pay 7 life each time, but I suppose with enough Wild Growth Walkers, that's okay.
Yeah, really, we're just a Jade Light Ranger away from Claudel not literally having infinite life, but never having to worry about life totals again.
He also has 2 copies of Plane-Wide Celebration, which can gain life.
Yeah.
Okay, this is neat. Yarok can swing, and that takes care of Tamio. Or it'll attempt to.
Yeah, Evan's just kind of going, all right, my Root Snare's gonna do something.
Yeah, no damage from combat.
My turn to cast a spell.
I think we're moving to discard. That might be it for Slater.
Oh my gosh.
Because of the awkward situation he was in with having to tap all his mana at the beginning of the turn, he couldn't really get over the bumps on the top of the deck to get the cards he needed.
Yeah, there's this spot where him having to spend so many of his lands that way, it's just putting him in a spot where he doesn't actually get to do anything with the extra cards he finds from Risen Reef triggers.
So he moves to discard. Evan says, hold on, I'm in a growth spiral. Now Slater discarding. Can't imagine he gets another turn. But stranger things have happened.
So I'd say that's just like not a very vivid imagination, Matthias. Like, no offense, I just... I mean, that wouldn't even be like top 5 SCG moments. It might be top 5 SCG moments. Just watching 2 combo decks fizzle back and forth.
+1 from Tamio. You can name Nexus of Fate. Can he find one? Temple. Land. There's a Nexus.
We take those.
The Callous Dismissal placed into the yard. Also a Chemister's Insight placed into the yard, which is going to come up.
And going back to last turn, there's a chance I would have maybe liked to have blown up the Tomio rather than the Wilderness Reclamation. Kind of going back to what I was talking about Whitehouse not having a ton to do with the mana as it stands, and Whitehouse just kind of needing a card advantage engine in order to keep finding these nexuses.
Yeah, and I think what Slater can do is he can attack Tamio first and then see whether it works before he makes the decision. He's not winning on the combat step.
Completely agree.
Nissa, Who Shakes the World from Evan.
All right.
Looking at how many of these lands are forests.
1.
1. Yeah, now we're all hinterland harbors and temples.
But you can untap it with Nissa
That'll work.
once, since she can only target non-creature lands.
So more mana from Evan. He's got a Nexus already in hand. I think you're right, this Nissa, or Tamio rather, because Evan is going to keep getting more turns, is going to do some real damage when he keeps naming of Nexus of Fate with it.
Right, exactly.
Tracking some mana here. Here's Wilderness Reclamation. Okay, mana. He should be good on mana.
All right.
And Search
Well,
for Azcanta. This is...
the game has concluded. It might take 10 minutes, but the game is over.
yeah, so the card that really sealed it up was the Search for Azcanta.
Yeah, Search for Azcanta with his extra turn that we know is coming, as well as Tamio. Whitehouse just has all the pieces, and during his next turn, he's going to get to roll up Tamio, which is 4 cards, activate Azcanta once, which is 4 cards,
Twice
untap
even, right?
it, which is 4 more cards, draws a card for a turn, and has 2 Chemister's Insights in graveyard. He's literally going to look at 17 cards to find a 4 of in his deck.
Yeah, and Slater sees it as well. Looks up, picks up the dice, and game 1 goes to Evan Whitehouse.
Yeah, and that's just the kind of concession that might look premature, but especially when Whitehouse has the Nissa on the battlefield and everything, everyone knows the writing's on the wall, and Claudel's deck is not fast.
Right, well, when you look at the kind of combos they're both doing, so Slater's deck is a combo deck, but it is a value-oriented combo deck. You saw what happened there. When he comboed off, he got to have 5 or 6 creatures in play and 10 cards in hand, and then said, go. You know, it's the kind of thing that's good at attacking. It'll beat up a control deck, whereas Evan's combo wins the game.
Yep.
Straight out, regardless of board state. And that means it puts pressure on Slater because not all his combo decks are good enough combos.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the difference here, is it is literally a very linear... They're both engine combo decks, right? There are 2-card combo decks like Splinter Twin that we're kind of used to, and then there are these engine combo decks where the whole deck is built with this one synergy in mind, and you're really trying to drive it home and do something that goes way over the top of a fair deck. But the big difference is that the Simic deck goes arbitrarily large, infinite, whatever verbiage you want to use. And the Sultai Citadel deck, a lot of the times, is kind of just designed to say, all right, well, my 1 card is going to pay 10 life and draw 15 cards, and that's going to be good enough.
So,
Except here, where drawing 15 cards is not remotely good enough.
So when you look at the sideboard, it does seem like Slater has that in mind. A lot of cards to help fight against these kind of decks. Especially in his Demure cards that he has available.
Yeah, absolutely. Thief of Sanity, incredible here. You're definitely going to be seeing Unmoored Ego. That card has been named more Nexus of Fate than any other card it is named this entire format combined.
And what I like about the matchup is when you talk about other things that Evan's deck can do, where sometimes he sideboards into creature plans, I'm not really sure that that's going to be good enough against Slater's deck.
Yeah, no, for the most part here, you're probably just trying to stick to your main game plan.
So how do you, on the Evan side, how do you stop an Unmoored Ego?
Veil of Summer.
Okay.
That card's very nice. We saw it do a lot of work in the time-shifted match in the hands of Dylan Donegan against John Rossum last round, where Donegan just had 3 Veil of Summers and so many... It's an immense mana advantage against these Sultai decks, or any blue-black deck for that matter, but it also is generally card advantage on top of that. So when you know that card's going to be good, it is just over the moon absurd.
Star City Creature Collection, its newest edition is Down Undead. We have the art available on playmats and sleeves, and it is now for sale that we are in July. You can find this at starcitygames.com/creature collection. Got some koalas here.
Do you hail from a land down undead?
I like so the shaman, the koala in the background seems very disturbed by what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, basically what I'm imagining here is everyone is offering this small child Vegemite, and this other koala is trying to save the small koala from Vegemite.
I like it. You can get this. over at our website, along with other previous creature collections. So, looking at the sideboard then, if Evan has these Veil Summers, and negates, does he even board in any of his other win conditions? Biogenic Ooze, Shifting Ceratops, do they do enough?
Generally, a lot of the time you want those to be able to pressure things like Planeswalkers,
Right.
but they're likely not going to be doing enough here. I really think you're just trying to push your primary combo through. You might see him bring in something like Aether Gust because... Oh, no, that's actually so bad. That's so bad against... Oh, my gosh.
Puts a card on top of their deck. Well, all right, if you insist.
You know what? I'll tell you what. I'll put that Wild Growth Walker on top.
It does mean that if an Unmoored Ego sticks on turn 3, we might see a very quick game.
Yeah, it's very rough. You're putting a lot of eggs in one basket, but that's kind of the thing with something like Slater's deck. That's the strength of it, right? Is you are, in a lot of ways, functionally going to be a mid-range deck or a value-oriented deck that can go over the top of everything. So if you just force other decks to play that game, the idea is that you'll be able to beat them.
It's to kind of jam these Unmoored Egos, trying to get a win out of it, and Thief of Sanity. And Slater does have the backup plan of just comboing first.
Yeah.
Post-board, it seems like this should improve the matchup for Slater.
Yeah, he's definitely looking to play a much more fair game. We're probably going to see him take out a bunch of the linear cards, some of the things like Hostage Taker that just don't have a text box or have a drawback text box game 1, not ever wasting draws or Bolas Citadel activations on those.
You mentioned before that the card Scheming Symmetry is in Slater Claudel's deck. If you aren't aware, those of you who don't know the card, it's from Magic 2020. 1 black, both players get to search their library for a card and place it on top of their deck. Which, of course, because of how Bolas Citadel works, it's not really on top of your deck. It's there, but you're playing it immediately.
It's on top of your deck.
That's
It
where you
better
want
be
it to
on top of your library. That is the most important spot for that card to go. Love the artwork on that card. Seb McKinnon has just been killing it this last year or so. I mean, he's been killing it for a long time, right? But he's gotten a lot of recognition in the last 12 months, and it's just really cool to see him kind of thrive.
Here for game 2, Slater on a mulligan to 6.
Yeah, and that's just a result of the fact that he has a bunch of cards that are kind of bordering on hate cards that he wants to find, and he knows if he can find those, they will basically win the game by themselves, so taking a mulligan or 2 to find them is just fine.
That's from Evan. Actually, Slater's side, a pretty good start. He will have a turn 3 Thief of Sanity.
Well, good luck, Evan.
Yeah, cast an opt. You can't Veil of Summer that one.
No, unfortunately not. You can Root Snare it.
Do you think they're still in the deck?
That's possible. If you're not looking to actually sideboard that much and you expect Slater to just put 20 power into play, it's not that unreasonable to have it in your deck.
Well, Evan will buy himself a turn. His one copy of Callous Dismissal was in the opener, so he will amass 1 and put the Thief back in Slater's hand.
Cedric Phillips to the feature match area, please.
Just 1 Cedric Phillips for now.
Look, dude's an army.
Well, okay, it's 1 Cedric Phillips.
It's an army. It is an army of Cedric Phillips.
Yeah.
What is the plural of Phillips? Is it Phillipses? Phillipses?
Phillips.
Phillipsi? Philoops.
It's like parenthesis, but parentheses. Phillips.
We're going to get fired.
Wilderness Reclamation from Evan. Untaps, and on his own end step, he blink of an eye is the Thief of Sanity back to Slater's hand.
All the Simic Nexus deck needs is time.
It also needs Nexus of Fates, and here's an Unmoored Ego from Slater.
What would you like to name?
He indeed named Nexus of Fate.
Well, lucky
Lucky
for Evan, there are only mountains to be found.
Can't name. This is the real secret with the judge-issued proxies. They can't name. Oh, you can name basic mountain. You can name a basic with this?
You can. You can only remove 4, but...
Oh. Well, I guess then it wasn't good tech. You can name
God.
basic mountain.
Do you think Evan maybe tried something like these aren't the droids you're looking for? Like some real Jedi mind trick stuff?
I could see it. So
Slater
So
just
what
picks the
happens
deck
now?
up, sees 4 mountains, 4 Nexus of Fate, and goes, oh no.
So Evan has no copies of Nexus of Fate in his deck. Can't
Well,
get them back. We'll see if Evan continues playing.
He may lean into his fair game here. If
He's got a
does-
1/1.
Yeah. If he actually has any of his creatures in his deck, it's not impossible for him to win from here. If he just, say, jams Shifting Ceratops into Biogenic Ooze.
Has to have them right now.
Listen.
Yeah, let's do it.
That is true.
Well, now he knows. Things are looking good, right? Especially facing down a turn 3 Thief of Sanity on the play. Evan able to bounce it and bounce it again and stick a Wilderness Reclamation. Things were going well.
Yeah, it looks like he knows. He's just packing up the cards.
Yeah, no way out. Slater Claudel draws even thanks to his sideboard.
And in Evan's defense, that's just not a card that's frequently on your radar. I hope he remembers to put those mountains back in his deck.
Yeah, your opponent respected the matchup enough to register the card. You have to give him points for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't believe we can tell him to do that. I think he's responsible for presenting his own deck. Yeah, I know. I don't think we can code. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't believe we're supposed to intervene. So they will have a third deciding game. And let's look back to Evan Whitehouse, okay? He just lost a game to Unmoored Ego, card that you don't always know if your opponent's playing. It's got to change his approach now for the third game.
All right, we have mountains in the deck.
All right, so we're keeping the Nexus in. But honestly, if he's seen this, he's got to re-sideboard in some way, right?
No.
Okay. So what does he do instead?
Here's my thing, is at this point, I would likely just respect Unmoored Ego more when mulliganing, trying to make decisions, and otherwise would probably not change course very much. I'm not confident that Biogenic Ooze is going to beat the Thief of Sanity plan with what the rest of the deck is doing frequently enough. It's possible that you want to bring it in, but realistically, there are only 2 copies of Biogenic Ooze, 1 copy of Shifting Ceratops.
Sure. Maybe not in other win conditions, but as far as the number of negates and Veil of Summers you've boarded in, are you going to increase there?
Oh, I would have already had all of those in the deck at this point.
And if they weren't, now they definitely are.
Yeah, absolutely. Bolus's Citadel is a nice, clunky target for a negate. It's just big, costs a ton of mana, hard for Slater to really protect it with anything. And then Veil of Summer is just incredible against a bunch of these decks, and we saw Evan had one in his graveyard there at the end anyway, so we can assume that he already had them in his deck. That's not exactly a card you bring in one of.
Sure. Yeah, as far as the alternate win conditions, though, no, just gonna.
Yeah, I don't think he has enough of them in his sideboard to really have that be a reliable strategy. And think, all right, if my Nexus is good Unmoored Ego, is 1 Biogenic Ooze going to beat the rest of Claudel's draw?
Right.
And it's not impossible. It's just not something that's going to work out frequently enough that you want to dilute your deck with that sort of thing.
So yeah, it's 6 hard counter spells for Unmoored Ego. See, would like to have one in his opener so he can save it for the card. I'd be interested to see if he's willing to keep hands without it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that last game, it's possible if Evan had one in his hand and he had just blinked the
He would have done it
without
anyway.
kicking it. But if he'd done it without kicking it, he could then protect from the Unmoored Ego, and that could have just changed the entire game.
And that's where information, I think, would come into play, because without knowing your opponent had Unmoored Ego, you probably would draw a card with blink of an eye there.
Right.
You don't not kick it on the off chance your opponent has registered it, but now that you know he has it,
right,
you have to. See, sideboard cards we're talking about, especially Veil of Summer, some of the newest additions from Magic 2020, as well as Bolas's Citadel. This is the release weekend for it, which means it is now on sale. You can get it, and you can get it from Star City Games. Now available for order at starcitygames.com/M20. A ton of M20 cards in the set this weekend.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It is reshaping Standard in a way that a lot of core sets don't.
Claudel on 6 here, or contemplating his 6. Looks like that's going to be going to 5.
Actually, he's on 5.
When you start seeing your opponent go down on cards like this, from Evan's side, oftentimes what he'll want to do then is be on the lookout for high impact cards, something that can draw a weakened hand back into the game, something like Thief of Sanity or Unmoored Ego.
Yeah, there's certainly a point where in a lot of situations you kind of have to weigh if you feel like you're ahead or behind. And then let's put this in terms of if you're closer to winning the game than you are to losing the game. And when you're closer to winning the game because you're ahead, you kind of have to think to yourself, all right, what needs to happen for my opponent to actually win from this position? Or how do I lose this game? And so at this point, what's likely running through Evan's head is something to the effect of, all right, what is Slater looking for that is actually going to pull him back from a 5-card opening hand when his deck might be a resource light one?
2 cards on the bottom. Slater does keep on 5. Fortunately for his deck, he does have a lot of card advantage in it. See Risen Reef, the pickup for the turn.
Yeah, and him being on the draw kind of undoes a little bit of that mulligan as well. Evan drawing one of those coveted mountain cards.
For the event today, the head judge has ruled that those will be in place of Nexus of Fate in players' decks. So if you've been watching with us today, a lot of players playing blue-green decks with 4 basic mountains.
Style points, really. If you never played Temur Scapeshift.
Oh, I played Temur Scapeshift.
Oh, I know you played Temur Scapeshift, Matthias.
Yeah, it's my blue-green deck that with terrible mana.
It's 4 mountains.
Both players just developing lands here as we go to the 3rd turn for Slater Claudel. There's going to be time for that Risen Reef, perhaps.
Slater trying to figure out if he wants to risk tapping out when he knows a Tamio could come down next turn.
Also has a Noxious Grasp in his hand.
Ooh.
Okay, so here's our look at Scheming Symmetry, the 1-mana card. Both players put a card on top of their deck. This is a really bold play. There's so many mind games going on
This
here.
is great. So Slater knows that the best thing that Evan can likely do on his 4th turn is play a Tamio. But he has a Noxious Grasp, which tags the Tamio.
Oh, it's wait. Let's hold on here. Slater might have just put Unmoored Ego on top of his deck. There's no way Evan's tapping out for Tamio.
Oh, yeah. You can't risk it, but you can kind of risk it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can always just get the Veil of Summer that counters it with the Scheming Symmetry. But maybe Slater knows that and he doesn't get Unmoored Ego. This is why this card's great. There's so many levels.
I know that you know that I know that you know that I know that you know.
I'm really curious. All right, what did each of them get?
Oh, we don't know.
We don't know. And Slater chose that over Risen Reef. And now he's going to Assassin's Trophy one of Evan's lands, and Evan has to shuffle it away. This is so aggressive. This is
the sauce.
Well, what I want to point out is that both these cards were card disadvantage for Slater. So whatever he's building here, this is a big investment.
Look, so that's the thing is Simic Nexus isn't playing a traditional card advantage game.
Right.
This is likely Slater kind of just saying, all right, I need this Unmoored Ego to happen, and I'm going to do whatever I can to try and set it up over the course of the next couple of turns.
So I'm hoping, so he has Unmoored Ego on top of his deck, and he doesn't want Evan to get a Veil. So you think next turn is just Slater firing off Unmoored Ego, rolling the dice?
It's very likely that that's what we're about to see over here.
And then we'll see if it works. This is nice. If you're in Evan's spot and you don't have the Veil or Negate in your hand, you need to be panicking right now.
If he had ripped a Veil there, I would have laughed until I cried.
Fourth land from Evan. I mean, it doesn't matter about leaving man up for the bluff. Slater's going for it into your open
Oh,
hand.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, no. Evan, he didn't have it. The gamble's going to pay off.
Oh, no.
Tamio buys back the land.
Flip it.
Flip it, Slater, with the Is it there? Oh, it is. Oh, this is this is disgusting.
Oh, God, you got to flip it. You need the moment.
Oh, you just put it on the table, say, look,
Come on.
this was the whole strategy. We both knew it.
Oh, my gosh.
When you're, and I love this because he was down so much on cards that once you're already losing by that much, you need to take these really high variance extreme lines, and that's exactly what he did.
Oh, my gosh.
Nexus of Fate.
As a matter of fact, I will name Mountain Nexus of Fate.
This is so good. This is the kind of line that if you were playing a team event, you turn to your teammate and be like, I think I'm going to tutor up an Unmoored Ego, and then I'm going to make him shuffle. And if he doesn't have it, it's going to work.
And both
your team,
both of your teammates are just like, are you kidding?
like,
what are you doing?
Like, dude, if Negate's in his hand, we lose. You're like, yeah, I know. I don't think he has it. Okay, so Slater, wait, now I'm interested. So Slater did not name Nexus. He named Nissa, Who Shakes the World. Hold on. All right, I'm confused now. There is a biogenic ooze in Evan's hand.
Okay.
So even if he'd named Nexus, he very well could lose from here. Tamio plus ooze next turn is really good.
Yeah, there's a not zero chance that Slater just put Evan on. No, because he played Callous Test Missile last game.
Maybe the thought, maybe he has two Unmoored Egos.
Did he not have Anissa?
No, he boarded it out. It's gone. He put in biogenic instead. But last time Slater looked at the deck, Nissa was there. So I think the thought here was he'd get Nissa this turn and then he has another one to get Nexus next turn. I mean, as it turns out, he whiffed on an Unmoored Ego. That's pretty brutal, but I understand the play.
Right. Ready to see this Tamio go up to 3?
Doesn't even matter what he names. Just the biogenic ooze by itself might be too much.
Veil of Summer.
Wilderness Reclamation was the name, and he got the card.
Wilderness Rec's really nice with Biogenic Ooze.
Yeah, if I'm in Evan's spot, the read on the situation should be that Slater has another Unmoored Ego, right?
Right.
Like, why didn't he name Nexus? That's the card. Almost doesn't matter anymore. You have ooze plus next turn, you could have land 6 plus Wilderness Reclamation. There's just a lot to like on Evan's side. Here is the Wilderness Reclamation. Floats 1 mana, goes into the untap, so you can cast up to 6. Looks like there's going to be a Chemister's Insight. Was hoping, I guess, here to draw into Negate or Veil of Summer.
Right, just something to tag the other Unmoored Ego.
Says go. Might still lose his Nexus, but what I like about the setup...
That's fine. Like, at this point, you have enough to actually do something with Biogenic Ooze. Tamio is kind of going to work as a more traditional value engine.
Right.
Slater doesn't have that much going on at the moment, so just having something to kind of try to kick Slater's teeth down his throat is going to be good enough a lot of the time.
Risen Reef for Slater, right? With 12 mana next turn, with just Biogenic Ooze, Evan can do a lot of damage.
Right.
Slater, Risen Reef, and this is Noxious Grasp. And there is the Veil of Summer.
Well,
3:30 standard challenge players, please.
And then I
do you
think
know what time it is?
Oh, I think it might be time for Nexus of
Do you know what
Fate.
turn it is?
The last one.
Oh
Well,
yeah, let's look at it this way. I'm in the world of Evan Whitehouse, turns in Magic are a zero-sum game, and he plans to take all of them.
Temple of Mystery to start. Scries to the bottom. Tameo. +1. Not much he needs to name here. Maybe search for Azcanta. Names, is it Nexus of Fate into the hand? No, that's back into the deck. Sounds like search for Azcanta was the card he named.
All right, that's just kind of looking for things that seal the deal from here. Slater's tapped out. Evan knows the shields are down. You just gotta go.
And goes to end step, floats 5, make that 6 and 7. Here's Nexus of Fate. Another turn coming up for Evan.
Slater very politely watching Evan play Magic.
Those lands are going to stay tapped for Slater. I don't... Another Chemister's Insight with the leftover mana for Evan. This is the end of that turn. Now he's on to his extra turn. To Evan we go. He needs another Nexus of Fate if he doesn't have one already. Plenty of mana to work with.
Has plenty of mana, has a Tameo activation still. A lot of things looking good for Whitehouse at this point. There's even a point where he may be considering whether he just wants to play an ooze and try to go off with this biogenic ooze if he even needs to take another turn right here, or if just making a bunch of slimes is going to be good enough.
So with a land drop, he has 14 mana. So that's enough for the biogenic ooze +2 activations.
Right.
Looks like that's what he's just deciding to do. And here is biogenic ooze.
You can just minus Tameo and get back Veil of Summer here. And let's do some quick math. 14 minus 5 is 9. Minus 4 for an ooze activation is 5. Minus 4 for an ooze activation is 1, which leaves just enough for Veil of Summer and 2 oozes. So the casual 9 power and protection for all of them.
And gets biogenic ooze. Gets 2 additional ooze. Buys back Veil of Summer. It's exactly the line. And Slater's going to extend the hand. No way out. Took a high variance line and got punished by Evan Whitehouse re-sideboarding. That's going to be the match.
Yeah, absolutely. That was just really tight play on Evan's part, kind of taking a really big risk and it paying off. And that's the difference between your average players and your very good players. This is why we see Evan succeeding so much on the tour is you can't always you can't just play to not lose. You have to play to win. And Evan knew that jamming Tameo on that 4th turn was kind of the recipe for success.
So Simic Nexus moves to 5-0 for Evan Whitehouse. He has 4 rounds to play today. Only needs 1 more win to move into day 2.
Oh yeah, and his positioning on the weekend is looking great.
Players in the 3:30 standard challenge and 3:30 Two-Minute Giant Steel Spectacular. The beginnings of your events are being posted at the gathering point. Please make your